Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another FutureFight Vanguard video. Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be finishing up our Crystal Melody set with our FutureFight here with the fifth and final Bermuda deck, which is going to be the Melody deck itself, as the set says, Crystal Melody, which is funny because Melody's not really the best deck out of the set, but it's named, like the set is named after it. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. But we're going to get right into the video. A couple things before we get started. Sorry for the late videos. I'm going to be probably releasing 3 videos today at the same time. I have been like slacking on editing and recording videos because I've been super addicted to Vanguard 0. If you guys know what that is, then it is a mobile game that Bushiroad released. And it has like all the old, like basically they're on set 1 right now of the original Vanguard, and since I've played the game since the game came out in Japan, I've been like really into it and really grinding hard, trying to do my best to be in the top rankings of players, even though I started like a lot later than all of the other players that are like top ranked right now. But I've been trying really hard to like grind my way and just kind of get in like the top 10 of players, I would say, because the first place guy, I feel like there's no way that anyone's beating him this month until the reset. Like, he's just way ahead of everyone else, even like second place. So no chance of really doing that, but we can try to get top 10. I've been told also that if you guys would be interested in seeing some content for that, definitely let me know in the comment section down below. I will be making some Vanguard 0 content for that after I catch up on my FutureFight. So that's first and foremost for you guys, so that just when we get back to regular life, you guys have all the decks at your access so that you guys can see how all the decks work and stuff like that. But anyways, we're going to get right into the video. If you guys haven't already, be sure to like the video, comment down below letting me know your thoughts, and let me know what kind of content you guys would enjoy. Always open to suggestions from you guys. Be sure to also subscribe and click the bell button so you don't have to miss any content going forward. Also, be sure to check out our sponsor, Cardfight Vision. Vision has been hosting tournaments lately. That is part of the VCC, which is the Vision Cross Circuit. So it's basically supposed to take the place, quote unquote, take the place of BCSs, since all the BCSs are getting canceled thanks to the coronavirus quarantine thing where everyone's supposed to stay inside. So it's been really cool. A lot of people have been entering. It's been like over 100 people in an event. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely go to the Vision Discord or check out the Vision website down below in the description. Also, be sure to last but not least, check out our second channel if you guys are interested in anime, animation, or video games, and then be sure to check out the channel memberships if you guys are interested in getting more value out of my channel, and just a lot of the rewards there and helping out the channel a lot more. But with that being said, let's get right into today's deck. So obviously, like I said, today's deck we're going to be covering Melody. Pretty quick. Melody is the keyword for Bermuda Standard, where basically if a unit has Melody, it shares its Melody ability with all the other units that have Melody. Now, that's very important because there are some units that have Melody skills that share Melody, but there are some units that just have Melody and then another skill, like this cannon right here. Like, it has Melody, but its regular skill is not Melody. So it's very important to differentiate which skills are Melody and not, so that you know that you're playing the deck correctly. But yeah, let's get right into the deck. So first of all, we have one Crystal Popstar Eve. We've run this in a majority of our decks. Eve is just really good, especially in Melody, in my opinion, just because everything shares skills with Melody on like Vanguard and Rearguard Circle. So when you get to the Eve, now there's no need to run like more than 1 or 2. But I think that definitely running 1 is fine, because it's kind of like a thing of, if you come across it, cool. If you don't, also cool. Like, it's fine. But Eve is like what you would go into in those matchups like Murakumo, like Hyuga bounces your whole board, or Blade Master retires your whole board, or like any kind of like hard control. Like, you just want to go into Eve just so that you don't have to be wasting cards from hand to call cards from your deck, which are most likely Melody. And then most likely your units are all going to work off of each other when they are called, just because they all have Melody and they're all sharing abilities. So there's no way that the card that you call can be useless unless it's a trigger, really. But let's go over Eve's skills. So the first one is a Vanguard activation skill. So during your main phase, you can look at the top card of your deck for a cost, which we all know is not a real cost. And then you may call the top card of your deck to an open rearguard circle. What this means is that you can look at the top card of your deck, and then you can choose to call it, or you can just leave it on top, which is really, really important, because if you look at the top card and you see that it's a trigger, you can just leave the trigger on top of your deck, which ensures that you are going to drive check it, which works really well with the second ability of Eve, which is a continuous Vanguard skill that says when your unit's power or critical would be increased by your trigger effect, double the value of that increase. So basically, if you check a crit, you get max value out of Eve's skill because you get to give +2 crit to something and then plus 20k power, whereas normally you would get +1 crit and plus 10k power. But this makes the max value out of that. It's also cool to check heals and draws as well, because you still get 20k power. And then also an important thing to note as well is that when you're on this, it actually works defensively too. It's not just drive checks. It just says when your unit's power would be increased by a trigger effect. So basically, if you get a damage draw trigger, you go up to 34k on your Eve Vanguard, and that's just very, very good for your defensive, and there's not many things in the game that can hit over that when you get a defensive trigger. So very, very good to conserve hand and also keep you safe. Moving on to our grade 3s, we have 4 Colorful Pastoral Sonata. So Sonata was the main grade 3 of the old Melody deck, and we're still running her at 4 because she is still pretty much the best Melody card that is available to them right now. It does say right here that it has a standard restriction saying that you can't run this card and Lieselot at the same time. However, since then there has been a new ban list, and Lieselot, the Sonata restriction, has since then been removed from the restriction, so you can run Lieselot and Sonata in the same deck now, which might change your build for Melody, but I mean, personally, I would just keep it the same. I think that they released it from the ban list because it's no longer really useful, or that as useful as it was. So obviously they can just release it from restriction, because if it's not powerful, why is it on the restriction list, you know? So let's go over Sonata skills. So the first skill is a Melody skill. It says continuous Vanguard rearguard skill. During your turn, this unit gets plus 5,000 power, and then this is shared by all of your units with Melody. So basically, this is just a field buffer. Whenever you have Sonata on the board, or multiple Sonatas, they do stack. So being able to give +5 to everything is insane, but even giving +10, +15 if you have like 2 or 3 Sonatas is just very, very, very good, and it's never something that you would not run 4 of, in my opinion. Also, it is your ideal grade 3 to ride because of the second skill. So it has an activation Vanguard skill that's once per turn, Counter Blast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Reveal cards from the top of your deck until a unit with the Melody ability is revealed, and then you can call that unit to rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. So basically, this card goes through your deck until you find a Melody unit. So you just flip from top every single time until you get a Melody unit, and then boom, you call it. Sometimes it might be good, sometimes it might be bad, but either way, it's a Melody unit, so you know that it's going to have use on your field. So that's very good. Moving on to our next grade 3, we have 3 Colorful Pastoral Caro. Caro is our second most important grade 3 in the Melody deck because she allows boost. So she's actually what makes your whole field live when you're just playing a bunch of 2s and 3s to your back row. It actually makes them useful and makes them able to boost, and also stacks with her ability as well, just like we mentioned with Sonata. So its Melody skill is Vanguard Rearguard. This unit gets boost, and then the continuous on the rearguard circle is during the battle that it boosted. This unit gets plus 5,000 power, and then this is shared by all of your units with Melody. So basically, yeah, it just allows every single Melody unit that you have to boost, and when they are boosting, they get plus 5k. So it means if you're boosting with a 10k grade 2, then they get they're a 15k booster, and if you're boosting with a grade 3, then they're an 18k booster, assuming that you don't have multiple Caros on the board or Caro Sonata combined, which would make them even bigger. Then it has a Vanguard skill in case you can't ride Sonata. This is the backup ride that you want to go into. So its Vanguard only skill is when placed, Soul Blast 2, search your deck for 1 Caro, reveal it, and then put it into your hand. So you get to search a Caro. This is better in Premium when you can use it to discard for Stride Fodder, but it also is still good in Standard because you can ride, get Caro, make sure Caro's set up on your board, and then if you find a Sonata, you can ride the Sonata next turn, or if you find Eve, you can ride the Eve next turn, and then that way you won't have to have that Caro on your Vanguard circle that's giving Melody. You have that Caro that you added to your hand on the rearguard circle. So that's very, very good as well. Moving on to our next grade 3, we have 2 colorful pastoral Fina. Fina is our grade 3 melody card that allows intercept. So its melody skill is Vanguard Rearguard. This unit gets intercept, and then auto. When it intercepts, this unit gets plus 10,000 shield until the end of the battle, and this is shared by all of your units with melody. So basically, this card became even better, in my opinion, in this set because you did get access to the melody grade 2s now. So a lot of the melody grade 2s have 5,000, if not 10,000 or more shield. So just being able to have Fina in the back row and then intercept with your grade 2s, that actually makes for really solid intercept numbers and really solid blocks on your opponent's attacks. Especially if they're playing force, it's more likely that they're not going to get more attacks. It depends on what force deck they're playing, of course, because there are some force decks that can get multiple attacks more than 3. But if they're playing a regular force deck that can only get 3 attacks, then Fina just becomes really clutch because all of your intercepts will become super big. She also does stack. Also, so if you have both Finas that you have in your deck on the board, then every single time that you intercept with a melody card, it will be getting plus 20k shield. So that's very good and very solid. Then its Vanguard only skill, if you happen to ride it, is Soul Blast 2 during the main phase as an activation skill, and then you can activate on hit effects even when they do not hit for the battles of this turn. So kind of useful, kind of not. I mean, you do have a couple on hit abilities in this deck with both Serenas and stuff like that, but honestly, you don't want to ever ride Fina. It's just a real backup situation in case you don't ride Caro, Sonata, or really even Cannon or Serena, because even they're better on Vanguard Circle, in my opinion, than Fina. Fina is like a card that you only really want to ever have on the Rearguard Circle. So then moving on, we have 1 colorful pastoral Cannon, the grade 3. So this card has a melody ability. It says Vanguard Rearguard when placed, you may soul charge 1, and this is shared by all of your units with melody. So whenever you place a melody unit and this card's on the board, whether it be on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, you can soul charge 1, and that also works really well with its second ability, which is when it's on the Vanguard Circle, you can soul blast 3, and then until the end of the turn, when your opponent will call Guardians from his or her hand, he or she can only call 2 or more. So basically, this is really good when your opponent's at 5 damage. Now, I do think that your melody units your attacks will be so big that it's kind of useless to use this card skill. But on the same token, if you know that your opponent's playing Protect or something like that, that's when this really comes in handy because they have like a lot of PGs and stuff like that. So you want to be able to be blowing 3 cards from their hand with every attack. The 3 cards being the PG and something else going on guard circle, and then them discarding for the PG. So you make the attacks big enough so that they can't just guard with 2 cards. So they have to guard with at least 3, and you're burning those cards from their hand every single turn. So this card is mainly really good ride against Protect decks for the most part. Then for our last grade 3 in the deck, we run 1 colorful pastoral Serena. So Serena's melee skill is Vanguard Rearguard when its attack hits a Vanguard, and you have 4 or less cards in your hand. Draw a card, and this is shared by all your units with melody. So basically helps you get up to 6 cards at all times because you can just attack with your Rearguard, assuming that they both hit. Let's say you're at like 2 cards in hand or something like that. Both of the Rearguard attacks hit. You go to 4, and then you attack with your Vanguard, and you drive check 2, and you get at least 2 cards to your hand. So you get at least 6 cards at all times with this card, and its Vanguard ability is really good as well if you happen to have to ride it, which is Vanguard skills Counterblast 3, and then return 3 cards with melody from your drop zone to your hand. So that's really good because if your opponent wipes your board or something like that, obviously you don't use Counterblast for a lot in this deck, so being able to use it for Serena is not bad at all. Like even if you have just a Serena in your hand and let's say you rode Sonata and you got the full ride off, if you don't have access to your Eve to refill your board, you can also just ride Serena and Counterblast 3 to help refill your board quicker and without wasting as many cards from your hand. Then moving on to our grade 2s, we have from Colorful Pastoral Sonata. So this is, we're moving into our grade 2s, which all of them are going to be the new Melody grade 2s that we got. So they're all basically lesser versions of the grade 3s because the grade 3s were already released, but all of these grade 2s are pretty much new. So this grade 2 Sonata, what it does is it has a melody ability. It says Vanguard Rearguard. During the battle that it attacked a Vanguard, this unit gets plus 5,000 power, and then this is shared with all your units with melody. So this card just basically, instead of boosting everything on the board by 5, it basically only boosts your attackers by 5, which is still very good because on like turn 2, if you make columns, you can still attack for like 23 and stuff like that, and that's just very, very big and hard for your opponent to deal with early in the game, especially in standard. And then moving on to our next grade 2, we have 2 from Colorful Pastoral Cannon. So Cannon has the Melody ability, but it does not have a Melody skill, so this card will be gaining all the Melody abilities of other units. However, its own skill is not to be given to everything else, so be aware of that. So Cannon's Rearguard ability is when placed, you can Soul Charge 1, and then if you have a Vanguard with Melody until the end of the turn, when your opponent would call cards from his or her hand to the guard circle for the battle that this unit attacked, then he or she must call 2 or more. So again, just a lesser version of the grade 3, whereas the grade 3 makes you Soul Blast 3, and then they have to block everything with 2 attacks that turn. The Cannon just Soul Charges, and then makes your opponent have to guard with 2 cards at least from with this card when this card attacks, which is really, really good to just force some damage in the early game. So that's not bad either. Then we have 2 from Colorful Pastoral Caro. Caro has the Melody ability, meaning that it gains Melody abilities of everything else. However, it does not have a Melody ability that it gives to everyone. So the regular rearguard skill of Caro is when placed from hand, Soul Blast 2, and then you can search your deck for up to 1 card with the same card name as your grade 3 Vanguard, reveal it, and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. And then this ability may only be used by a card with the same card name once per turn. So what this means is that you can just be on like Sonata or something like that, and then you can call the Caro, Soul Blast 2, get another Sonata. So that's very, very good, because then you get to play that Sonata on the rearguard circle, and then its skill becomes live to pump your board even more. Same thing if you're on Caro, you have the Soul, blah, blah, blah. Just, you know, get yourself the same version of the card. The only time that this doesn't really effectively work is when you're on Eve, Cannon, or Serena. Other than that, you should have the grade 3s in your deck to be able to use Caro efficiently. Then we're moving on to our grade 2 Fina, so from Colorful Pastoral Fina. So Fina has Melody, which means it gains all the Melody units that are given to it by other cards. However, it does not have a Melody ability itself, like some of the other grade 2s. So its continuous guard circle ability is if you have a Vanguard with Melody, this unit gets plus 10,000 shield. So that makes this card really prime to put in the front row or to hold in your hand, just because if you put in your front row and you have the grade 3 Fina, then this works really well, because this is intercepting for a 25k shield, which is really, really hard for your opponent to get over. Like, I feel like that's automatically blocking for 38, and that's just really hard for your opponent to make columns usually that are just over 38. So, and mostly it would be like a 1-card block intercept, and that's just very, very good. Then for our last grade 2, we run 2 from Colorful Pastoral Serena. So Serena has Melody, meaning that it gains all the abilities of Melody, and then it does not have a Melody ability, meaning that it does not give any Melody abilities to any of the other Melody units. So its Vanguard Rearguard skill is when its attack hits a Vanguard, if your hand has 4 or less cards, draw a card. So also just another downgraded version of the grade 3, but does help you in the early game as well, especially if you're wanting to rush and play a bunch of cards down from your hand, and then you attack them with Serena. That's pressure, because they either have to guard or let you get a card for free. So moving on to our grade 1s, we have 4 Top Star CL. So CL has been a staple in the deck at 4 since the last Melody deck. This is basically like a Melody searcher. It also protects your rearguards sometimes, the ones that you want. So let's talk about CL's 2 abilities. So CL's first ability is 1, your other rearguards in the same column as this unit cannot be attacked. So that protects them from being attacked by rearguards and stuff like that, but it does not protect them, unfortunately, from control. So that's why we have our anti-control options in the form of like Serena and Eve, so you definitely want to keep those handy. And then its other rearguard skill is when placed on rearguard, Soul Blast 1 and reveal a grade 3 card from your hand, which should be pretty easy. You run a lot of grade 3s in this deck. And then you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 card with Melody in its name, and put into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this card became even more good in this deck, just because the old Melody deck used to only have grade 3s that were Melody, and then now you have grade 2s that are Melody as well. So with that taking up such a large majority of your deck, there's no way that you should ever use CL and just not hit it unless you're super unlucky, and then the top 7 is like all triggers and all grade 1s or something like that. But most likely that will never happen. I've never had it happen to me, so you should always get like a +1 off of the CL search. And then for our next grade 1, we have 3 Special Message Aurora. So Aurora just helps us in the early game. It has a Vanguard Rearguard skill that says when placed, draw a card, discard a card. And then this ability may only be used by a card with the same card name once per turn. So you can only use 1 Aurora once per turn, no matter how many Auroras you have in your hand and how many that you have access to use. And then when you place it, you just draw one, discard one. Becomes even better with our new ruling that we get the quick shield when you go second, because cards like this just allow you to draw an extra card and then discard the quick shield, which is basically like you drawing 2 cards when you went for your turn, and that's just very, very, very good. And then for our final grade 1, we have 2 Rainy Tear Steza. We used to run this card at 4, however, there are a lot more factors in play now, and we don't have enough space to run it at 4, so I like running it at 2. And it says, rearguard circle at the end of the battle that it boosted Vanguard. Retire this unit, draw a card, and then counterboss 1, put a grade 3 from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck, and then you can draw another card. So this card allows you to draw 2. If you can do the full ability, then you can draw 2 post your Vanguard attack, which helps you really build hand for defensively for your opponent's next turn. And then for our starter, we run 1 Pure Gifter Arachi. So Arachi is just regular Bermuda starter that draws a card when it's ridden upon. Also, this errata is not written in here, but it does have an errata as all starters do, which means that when you ride to grade 1 and your opponent is also grade 1 or greater, then you get to add a quick shield to your hand, so a quick shield ticket. And that's just very, very good as well, because it allows you to discard for stuff like Aurora, and then at worst case scenario, you can use it for an extra 5k block. So very good. And then for our triggers, we run 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal. Our 8 crit being 4 Throbbing Shooter Peria, 2 Direct Shine Parsh, 2 Lover Hope Lena, 4 Glittery Baby Rene for our draw trigger PGs, and then 4 Handmaid Lover Elena for our heal triggers. But with that being that has been the deck, and we're going to get right into the games portion of the video here. So it seems like first game we're playing against Claret Sword. Our opponent calls tails while we call heads, so we actually go first. We get the Aurora, so we draw 2 and discard 1. And then our opponent uses the Claret grade 1, and actually mills 3, and then attacks us and gets a crit, which we get a heal. So we're actually able to get a really solid start in the form of having double Serena and Sonata. So all of our rearguards will get +5, which is actually hitting for a actual number against his 5k Vanguard. So he actually blocked both of our Serenas because we tried to get the on hit, and he PGs, so he really didn't want to let us get that card. And then we did check a crit when we went to swing for our grade 2. So he goes for his grade 2 turn, obviously using some of the skills to try to get some advantage, and then he attacks our rearguard, which we're completely fine with. We ride Sonata, and then we use Sonata skill, and then we get another Sonata, and then we have a Caro off the rip. So we're able to just play it. We also go Force 1, which is important because we could have went Force 2, but I did want to go Force 1 just to kind of like substantiate like how much like my opponent's taking damage. And so my opponent did ride Claret Sword, deals us 2 damage with Force 2, and then does the restand, and we just guard with the no pass, and then our opponent attacks us for 28, and we just PG that. And then we ride Eve. We look at the top card, we leave it back on top because obviously we can't call anything, so we attack, and then we don't get any triggers. Our opponent does get a trigger, and then we attack with the final thing, and our opponent blocks it. Our opponent rides a new Claret Sword, we guard for a 2 to pass. And then our opponent just decides to concede because he cannot use the Claret Sword skill. And then obviously if he attacks with this, we would just block it, and then he would definitely die to our turn the next turn after that. So that was game 1. So loading up Melody game 2 here. So it seems like we're playing against Link Joker, Harmonix, it seems like. So our opponent actually goes first. We ride, and at this point the new quick shield rule wasn't put in yet at the point of me recording this, so normally you would have gotten a quick shield and discarded the quick shield, but yeah, we just discarded a grade 0. We use CL's ability to look at top 7 for Melody unit, which we get Sonata, which is really cool, and then we have another CL, so we're going to use CL again, and we get a Sonata. So as you guys can see, CL is just a really, really solid card that allows you to just plus like just so much. So we attack, we get a crit, and our opponent blocks our rear guard. So our opponent rides Grayon, going for the delete on our Vanguard with the counterboss 2. And then he goes for Destiny Dealer, locking the top card from his deck, and the top card is Remarkable Monk, which is actually really good for him. He also attacks and gets a heal, so all kinds of things are going his way this turn, his or her way. I'm not sure my opponent is he or she. And then my opponent decides to bind my grade 1, and then we take the last attack and we get a draw trigger, so we do ride Sonata. Now, a good thing about this matchup is that delete usually focuses on deleting your Vanguard so that you don't have abilities and then you have to have a card to ride, but in Melody, because we run so many grade 3s, it's like not really a chance that you'll ever not have a grade 3. So our opponent is running the hybrid version of this deck, so he is playing Harmonics as well. So he attacks with Ghastly Nail, calls a lock card, and then attacks with Harmonics and calls a lock card. So we 2 to pass that. His Vanguard, he does not get the 2 to pass. He almost did, which we were kind of scared, and then we block his last attack with APG. And then for our turn, we decide to just play Cannon, and then we use Sonata's ability to look at the top card. We replace RCL. And then we just decide to keep it as is. Now, I could have played this Caro from our hand, but we also wanted to keep these two enough for these 2 PGs in our hand, assuming that he could survive, and he just couldn't survive that last attack. Like 66 is way too big for him to take. So, oh, that randomly popped up out of nowhere. Sorry about that, guys. I actually clicked that, and it almost messed up my recording. But yeah, okay, so let's get right into Melody game 3 and the final game. So the final game, it looks like we might be playing the same player. Yeah, we are playing the same player. So again, we go first, ride Aurora, draw 2, discard 1. I prefer discarding triggers whenever that happens, just because you want to keep your units to be able to use them. So I do go for CL. And I go for another CL, looking in top 7 again, getting another Sonata. So we're just really set up for our next turn. We do attack for 18 with the on hit, which makes our opponent block because he doesn't want us to get the draw. And then he takes the critical from our Vanguard and takes the rear guard cannon because he would have had to block 2. So he does attack with his Vanguard. We do get a heal, and he wipes our front row, which is cool because, you know, we have Sonata and we're playing Melody. So we do tops until we get a Melody unit, which ends up being Cannon, and we do have a Caro as well. So we're able to just attack with our Vanguard, and then we're able to attack for 31, and he couldn't even block the 31 because he has 4 grade 3s in his hand and 1 grade 1. So literally the 31 was just enough because he's a 10k. He has 2 intercepts, which would make him 20, and then 1 grade 1 that would make him 30. So 31 is just enough to get over the hump of being able to kill him because he didn't get any damage checks. So as you guys can see, this is a really very early game deck, and it can really kill your opponent quite quickly. But with that being said, that has been the FutureFight Vanguard video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below, subscribe, and click that bell button. Check out our second channel, Let's Plays Animes. Check out Vision, our sponsor, and check out our channel memberships as well. But with that being said, this has been Josh from Cardfight Empire, and I'll see you guys on video 2 of today. Peace.